This presentation is entitled Red Flags, which deals with college readiness and academic preparation. The title comes from the idea of talking about students being considered at risk, whether they're considered academically not prepared for college level courses, or using the idea of college readiness in this presentation, talk attitudes and the behavioral attributes that successful college students tend to possess. That can be some of the college readiness issues are under that umbrella of study skills, time management, awareness of one's performance, persistence, and the ability to utilize study groups, where that kind of goes along with the self-awareness that a student comes to know as through their college experience. And academic preparation has to do with, primarily the high school courses taken, grades received, combined with the scores on national exams. Looking at what we already know, we are looking at the remediation rates are on the increase. I mean, a third of all freshmen at four-year institutions are in remedial courses, which is developmental coursework, zero level coursework, and 60% of freshmen at two-year schools. And in terms of using freshmen, we're saying first-time students at community colleges are in remediation. We also understand that college completion rates are stagnant. They are not moving. College completion rates, about 83% of high school graduates enroll in some form of post-secondary education, but only about 52% complete their degree. That has been around that 50% range, give or take 2 percentage points, for a number of years. It has stayed around that as far as actually graduating with their degree. We're also looking at the completion time. It is going on forever and forever, and it is increasing in the amount of time students are taking to finish their degree. Completion time, just only looking at the statistics of four-year schools, 34% are finishing in 4 years, 6% within 6 years, and 69% within 8.5 years. And that's definitely something that is stem lining and it has a direct correlation, and something that is out there and that we already have those statistics available. When any of the literature started talking about college readiness and academic preparation, these statistics definitely came into play. Jay Green from the Center for American Progress, he quoted that only 34% of all students who entered ninth grade in 2002 were prepared for college when they graduated high school. And that in itself helped kind of help his argument about what are some of the federal policies and what are some of the state policies that were in place as far as who were actually, like, what his idea of preparation meant, and what college readiness meant to him. His definition of being prepared for college had to do with graduating with a regular diploma, not the GED, having completed a minimum set of course requirements, which is 4 years of English, 3 years of math, and 2 years each of natural science, social science, and a foreign language, and being able to read at the big level or above on the National Assessment of Education Progress Reading Assessment. He is definitely over, the Center for American Progress that initially submitted this report to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And it is understandable that he would have that definition of college readiness as, assessments. What can be assessed? What are the ACT, what are the SAT scores of students, what courses did they take in high school, and a lot of that has to do with, now they're talking about, the high school GPA being a big factor as far as looking at college readiness. And it allowed me to sometimes also think about what college readiness meant as far as how I wanted to define it when it came to kind of breaking students down into different areas. you look at what Susan Goldberger stated in Jobs for she's a representative from Jobs for the Future. She said only 21% of high school graduates from the lowest economic quintile are adequately prepared for college level work, compared to the 54% of graduates from the middle and upper levels. It definitely let me know why there's a lot of foundations and a lot of grant programs that are gearing towards as far as this gap that consistently exists when it deals with socioeconomic status, and it deals with ethnicity, and it can even go into, in some cases, with the gender gaps in higher education. And looking at that, and when you go back to the initial statement made by Mr. Green, it also how many of that percentage are prepared. So if less are actually having of the high school graduates are being prepared, how bigger is the gap when they actually finish their first semester or first year of college already not being as adequately prepared for college? When you look at some of the federal and state policies that are in place, federal policy plays a huge role as far as they're the communicators. They communicate the need because they have the national assessments, they have the national standards, they have the national statistics as far as how is the United States doing in comparison to amongst other states. How are the states doing, and how are other countries doing in comparison to the United States? You have the NCLB, which is short for the No Child Left Behind, that they are now looking at college readiness when they implemented a lot of the assessments that go with No Child Left Behind, and as it has been reauthorized recently, it is directly looking at the students have the necessary coursework. What is the reading level? And with that, it puts a lot of more um, emphasis on the teacher preparation programs. Are they getting enough tools to make sure that the students, when they go into the classroom to teach, are their students going to be at standard? Are they teaching are they at the correct reading level past a certain grade? And are those teachers prepared to teach at that reading level? You also have high school curriculum standards. I know in the state of Oklahoma, it is really big right now that we're moving to the Common Core. It won't be until probably 4 years from now that we will know the difference on, how our students are coming in academically prepared now to when they will be coming in academically prepared in 4 years. And after we feel like our students are academically prepared, will that also in turn mean that they are college ready? And when I'm using college ready in this presentation, I'm definitely talking about the self-awareness, the maturity of the student when it comes to beginning college. You look at graduation requirements. State regions have different types of degree requirements depending on the institution. We will all have a university core, but some of the majors tend to have a little bit more rigor than other majors, and it's some majors want students to get started right into their major their first semester, and some schools will allow the student to be undecided their first year. And so there is that as far as when we look at what the federal may be the communicators, but as far as carrying out certain policies and how those policies are carried out would be the state. As far as looking at graduation requirements, how many credit hours are required to graduate. They also kind of coordinate the dual enrollment as far as giving students a little taste as far as like what we would call Oklahoma concurrent enrollment. The regents have a policy on how concurrent enrollment works, who's eligible for concurrent enrollment, what's the national assessment score that needs to be by a student in their junior year in high school. If they want to do concurrent enrollment, students can do concurrent enrollment as early as their junior year. So it is very interesting on how that whole process would work for students. You look at assessments. These are national assessments as well as they have some state exams. So a national assessment would be like the ACT, the SAT, and how heavily that may weigh on the students, how a university would view that. There's no way to tell about maturity in the ACT and the SAT, so it really would just be as far as kind of giving the student an overview of, is that student eligible to be admitted into this institution because they do this level of work. Then you have state exams, which with University of Central Oklahoma, there's the course placement test, and then many institutions also call it course placement exams, to where if a student did not receive a certain grade in their math section of the ACT, then they would go and take the institutional exam and see if they can get a high enough score so that they would show that they are eligible to take college level math. It is very difficult if there is no oral type of this exam to say, if a student is not, if you are not a great test taker, if you have test anxiety, or if you have just never done well on tests, this seems to currently still be the only way to become assessed. Very rarely, I know even at my institution, do we just allow a student to just try it out. And that is because that is the norm. It is the norm across the United States to have some type of assessment. We have all kind of statistics, how many students have taken the course placement exam, how many students have passed, how many students are in math for general education or contemporary math, compared to how many students are actually ready for college algebra, how many first-time students are taking a math course their very first semester in either a 2-year institution or a 4-year institution, which it is a lot of data supporting getting students in that early, looking at some of the Common Core, some of those different requirements will be changing. And so it is very interesting in seeing how the federal and state policies directly impact the particular institutions. McInnes, James, and McNaught state that there are first-year students who do not understand the difference between school and university, or who are so lacking in fundamental skills that they are not ready to take responsibility for their learning. Admitting these students without providing adequate support services and then criticizing them for failing to match up to expectations would be clearly a case of blaming the victim. And one of those things that goes right back to the previous slide as far as federal and state policies is that there was this big, now the concern for, what the Department of Education was doing. And one of the things is that they did as far as they communicating, if you're also, they were reauthorizing No Child Behind, but also at the same time also implementing programs to where they were talking of, targeting the students that had been left behind, as far as not necessarily being adequately prepared for the college experience. That is big in this quote of that do not understand the difference between school and university. There are many students that do not understand the difference between high school and college. Mainly when you're talking about orientation, right before their first college semester begins, and you ask them the difference, very few actually can articulate what that difference is because they haven't really experienced it yet. They've kind of gotten an overview, and we given them a short period of time to kind of get ready for the college experience. And the term experience has changed so much, even from if it's a student now from when their parents went to school. And when they're talking about the providing adequate support, it definitely kind of where the federal and state have definitely been a part of that, whether it's in the state of Oklahoma where there's Oklahoma's Promise, or if it's with the federal government and they have TRIO programs, and then you have of course Millennial Scholars type of programs to where they give individuals an opportunity to catch up. This was in an article by Joe Cusio, and he does a lot of research in looking at the characteristics of some of the students that would be considered at risk and that may have a red flag in their system. Some of the characteristics that he stated that these students have, as far as some of the pre-college characteristics that they have, is they're first generation student, low income student, they have unmet financial need, financially independent from parents, dependent children, single parent, Hispanic or African American ethnic racial background, particularly males. And to not have programs in your institution set up for these students, but is a case of blaming the victim if they do not succeed with the support that is at that institution. And so some of the things is that, he kind of brought up, if you're going to have, academic interventions in place, definitely as far as helping these students become more academically prepared and college ready, to have the following 4 characteristics. They must be proactive, intrusive, targeted, and personal. The idea as far as being proactive is that they're not there when something happens. They are there all the time. They are there to stop, to prevent the student from feeling isolated. They are there to prevent the student from not thinking that anybody knows who they are, that they are a number. They are there to let that student know that they matter and that they are a name, and that people know when they're not in class. People know when they're not doing what they need doing as a successful college student. They are intrusive as far as very into what the student's goals are. They understand the dynamic of the student's family. They are able to ask questions to get the student to be more comfortable with opening up if they feel lonely, or if they have moments of depression, or if they don't understand something. If a student is confused, sometimes the hardest thing for them to do is ask for help. And so these programs have to be intrusive, and so that they can be that place that a student can go to be able to ask for help. They are targeted, meaning that, like with some of the early, alert programs that are in place at institutions, and early alert programs target a particular student population. They can target a particular student populations that may be at risk, for academic failure or course attrition. That they're at a certain time, as far as within the first 6 weeks of a semester, is very on point in that regard. They're personalized. Students do not. They need to know that they matter. And that when they get sent an email, that a person sent them an email, not sent students a mass email. And so it should be very personalized as far as having that process. Mr. also gave some ideas for institutions to implement as far as some of the what he considered student success initiatives that will work with getting student, like examining the self-awareness and looking and helping students mature more and being more confident about their college abilities. Have early alert, early warning systems. Those going to be computerized. Those do not work unless you have the faculty as an active participant in the process of creating these programs, because it is up for the faculty to report if a student is not coming to class, or if they've made a D or F, at midterm time in the semester. They also can report if they're having behavioral issues in a class. First year seminars are really important as far as whether they're kind of earlier before the regular semester begins, like either during the summer, or if it's an orientation course set up that kind of gives student an overview and helps them they're learning different study techniques and get, acclimated to the campus. There's also the learning communities. A lot of research being done on learning communities and how they create a sense of environment and a belonging to students. And they are very personalized and targeted in learning communities and peer tutoring and supplemental instructions, just to look at how peers work together, where there's considered like peer coaching, and how you can use some of the successful students' attitudes to kind of work with the incoming students. You also have summer bridge programs where it kind of gives students opportunity to take a college level course when the campus is not as crazy as it is during August. You have study skills workshops, looking at the times that you have the workshops, looking at what incentives are in place when you have the workshops can be very helpful. Intrusive advising. Advisors asking a lot of questions. Do you work? How many hours do you work? Or do you live on campus? How far are you driving in, to campus? Why do you only want your classes on Tuesday and Thursday? And so it's very important that you kind of look at these programs, because they definitely are targeting, not necessarily, they're targeting academic preparation as well as looking at college readiness in the terms of dealing with the self-awareness of a student and allowing them time to reflect and to think critically as far as what their goals are and what the process of the college experience can entail. When I did this presentation, I had a lot of questions, and a few were answered in the literature, and I definitely ended up with a lot more questions than I did answers when it came to college readiness. And it's definitely something I will continue to look at as it pertains to the self-awareness side of the student, because I think that the confidence level of students, no matter what high school curriculum that they had, I think that a lot of the kind of a fear of success and a fear of failure, that how that works with the confidence is definitely something I will continue to look at. I've also attached a video with this presentation, and two students are talking about why they didn't feel ready or they didn't feel prepared to go to college. And I thought that was really important for everyone to see from the student's perspective. I've also attached my resources, and you can definitely feel free to contact me, or definitely feel free to send me an email at keisha.bryant@okstate.edu. Thank you.